Welcome, everyone, to Miller Johnson's Next Step webinar series, a series designed to keep our clients informed and up to date on important issues and events that are critical to businesses, their employees, and our communities. My name is Joe Agostinelli, and I'm the founder of Michigan Growth Advisors. Michigan Growth Advisors is a Miller Johnson consulting subsidiary focused on assisting our clients as they try to navigate economic development ecosystem in Michigan. Large economic development projects have no doubt captured considerable attention in recent months as industries has seen an influx of extremely large manufacturing projects, largely focused on the vehicle electrification and computer chip manufacturing industries. Michigan's been fortunate to land several of those so-called mega projects in recent months, and many of us are asking, why are these projects important, and what do they mean to our communities where they're locating and as to the state as a whole? So to dive into those questions, I'm pleased today to welcome Terri Fitzpatrick to our virtual stage. Terri is the Executive Vice President and Chief Real Estate and Global Attraction Officer at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Terri's been leading the state's strategy around mega site development and attracting these once-in-a-generation projects to the great state of Michigan. Welcome, Terri.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. That's an impressive introduction.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited to dive into this with you. So to start out, could you give our audience a sort of high-level overview of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, who might not be familiar with your organization?
Sure. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation really has two major roles. That's to attract and retain businesses and employees in Michigan, and also to market the state. We have the Pure Michigan campaign. And so those are, everything pretty much falls under those two buckets. And they very much, though, are closely aligned because part of our business attraction strategy is using the beautiful Michigan that is around us. And that's what the Pure Michigan campaign is all about.
So I know you've been, as we dig a little bit deeper into these mega site projects, from our previous conversations, I know the state's developed a strategic plan around mega sites. Can you tell us a little bit more about, I guess, why there is a plan for these and what's included in that?
Mega sites have been developing around the country and competitive in other states for a couple decades now. Michigan is, late getting into this game, and it was really highlighted by a loss in 2021 of a very big Ford deal that was very broadly publicized in a bipartisan legislature fashion. They approved a funding source called the SOAR Fund, which is the Strategic Outreach and Attraction Reserve Fund. And within that fund, there were different categories. One is for strategic site readiness, which is the program that I lead up, and one was for critical industry programs, which are the critical sectors that we're talking about: mobility, sustainability, and life sciences. And so we have built up a program of site readiness, which is a key element of attracting these next generation of related to vehicle automotive manufacturing in the state. What the requirements are often for the EV battery production and the semiconductor production are very, very large sites with very large utility demands. And so we had one site that the state was working on at the time. It was about 1,000 acres, roughly a little under 1,000 acres at that time. Shortly, at the same month that the bill passed creating these programs, I started to work with the MEDC. So, it was not stand up a program. It was hurry up and find us some sites. So we now have 4 mega sites in Michigan. We have 2 remaining sites. We were very fortunate to land the most recent Ford project on the first mega site that we had in Michigan, which is in Marshall. That project is a $3.5 billion investment in 2,500 employees. And that we have 2 other mega sites right now, but that that having that site and having site selectors and companies start to look at Michigan from that perspective really grew the interest in Michigan overall, because the same site selectors who go around, who work for different companies around the world to find where they are going to locate in the US, represent a wide range of projects. So having the exposure and the engagement on the very large sites has led to a lot of other potential business development. These large sites are important because of those reasons, because just the massiveness of the facilities themselves, and then the energy needs, the buffering that's needed from the surrounding communities, and other infrastructure improvements, including road and rail. So we continue to look for additional mega sites to develop in Michigan. Our strategic plan that was completed indicated we should have 2 more sites in Michigan than the 4 we've identified, 1 in Southeast Michigan and 1 in Southwest Michigan. So that is, we were already looking at Southeast Michigan. We were surprised that Southwest Michigan would be a place that we should look to. And so those efforts have just begun.
As we're seeing this rapid shift in the type of projects and how we manufacture products in Michigan, why are these very large projects important to the Michigan business community?
Fundamentally, economic development doesn't mean anything if it's not positively impacting the citizens of Michigan. And part of that impact is changing the trajectory of our decreasing population. And so when you have these large scale jobs that come in, that there are a few of them, large scale job creators, you have a multiplying effect on population growth, which is important to every aspect of the state of Michigan. But also from that, and part of why that is why that growth is important and why those jobs and those facilities are important. There's a lot of supplier opportunity around that. There's a lot of supplier opportunity. There's a lot of other business development, small business development of all kinds that are regionally relevant and that can feed off an existing system or enhance an existing system or create a new one. So there's a lot of spin-offs from having these large scale projects. And that is why, while you see some opposition to them, often it's not local residents' opposition, it's like public resistance that's organized, for different reasons in different manners. But the local business owners where we have, and the local suppliers and the smaller industrial parks that are located in the areas see the great opportunity that the large job creation and the advanced mobility brings to an area to keep us being an automotive state, but a different type of automotive state. It gets labeled in different ways, but so it impacts a whole economic ecosystem in the state, and has other community and benefits as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're seeing that with our clients too, as these large projects have landed. It's, the smaller folks are saying, hey, I could maybe be a supplier to that company, or real estate developers seeing, hey, there's going to be a large influx of jobs. Where are those people going to live? Let's focus on, developing new housing around these sites. So yeah, it's really exciting to see just the activity that spins off from just the announcement of the project, much less it getting going here and under construction in the months and years to come. So, what's at stake if we're unable to keep up with other states? Every state, as we travel around the country talking to other economic developers, through our site selection work, all states are being very aggressive in these mega site developments. So it's you're either in or you're not, it feels like, and it's exciting to see Michigan. But as we're seeing this unprecedented really expansion of mega site development projects around the country, what's at stake if we don't step up to the plate as a state?
huge consequences, huge negative consequences if we don't step up to the plate as a state, because the window for these opportunities is already closing. It was probably a 3-year window last year when it started. Most experts in the field will say right now there's maybe an 18-month window. On the real high side, they say maybe still a three-year window, but the most common window for these large scale developments that can, not only the job creation that comes with that specific development, but all the spin-off opportunity that comes with that is probably really 1.5 to 2 years left in that. And then, this is generational activity that's happening right now. Most people who have been in this business for a long time will say they've never seen anything like this before. They've never seen so many projects. They've never seen so many large projects. There's different reasons. There's federal initiatives that are giving some impetus to this. There is, coming off of COVID and special funding that came, out through that period. And so we're really in a limited window. And if we don't capture this business now, particularly in EV and semiconductor, we could actually see negative growth in manufacturing, because the automotive industry that we take for granted in Michigan has other options. And if they grow their businesses in other states, there's nothing keeping, OEM manufacturing here. There's nothing keeping anything legacy in the state, because that's an efficient business model. And so it's very important that we really seize the time that we have right now. And that, requires a lot of people pulling together to get the policy and the funding needed in order to be very competitive. It's a very competitive environment, and we're behind in the game. So we're playing catch up right now, and it really requires a lot of collaboration and people really digging deep to see that these things go through, and that's from the state legislature down to a local township official. There's a lot of burden being put on the locals to, where these big projects that are coming in, and it's a difficult position to be in. And so you need from the local official on the line to the state legislator and everybody who's working on the project in between.
I had the opportunity to work on, prior to launching Michigan Growth Advisors, worked in a regional economic development group and worked on that Marshall megasite for lots of projects over the years. So, there was a lot of, fits and starts as projects would look at it. And, we've made a lot of progress as a state to really getting serious about it, which was exciting to see. I guess, can you share any sort of lessons learned from, your relatively new role focusing on this, of how we approach these large projects and how do we keep addressing this issue going forward?
I would say that, we're accelerating what other state to try to be competitive with other states who have had years to do this. So when you accelerate things, there are maybe things that are missing, that aren't as well planned out, things that you would do differently if you have the time. So more public engagement. Now there's in Marshall, because you've been there before, you've worked on it. There's actually been public engagement for many years. The master plan was changed to, 3 or 4 years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago, to reflect the site in Marshall, and other changes were made to ready that site to be used for an industrial use. It was rezoned to industrial in the 60s, the large chunk of the site. So there was a lot of things that done along the way. It does seem to change once you have an actual project that you're talking about, though. And there's not really the time to go through a typical development process where there's, there's an announcement of it and you go through a more public process. So I would say public engagement is something that, could be done earlier on in the process if the business opportunity allowed you to do that. You're balancing the confidentiality of the potential business coming there for various reasons, and these might be federal regulatory reasons, and so just trying to balance that out. I think also, having both time and funding to prep the sites more. So, to clear them, to do any remediation or demolition that needs to occur, to do any, earthwork that you need to do to really create a pad ready site. That kind of work too, that would typically be, a 6 month to a year process, getting utilities relocated, utilities extended, things like that. So the physical preparation of the site, as well as the community engagement piece, I think if we had more time, and we will continue to try to work more diligently or very diligently to get out in front of those things as much as we can moving forward.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the situation we as a state and really as a country find ourselves in coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, where we, which is really what I think started the flow of all these large projects, both from federal funding tied to them and companies realizing some holes in their supply chain potentially, where things are getting manufactured overseas. So it's a great opportunity for us, but it's also coming at a time where, as a state and as a country, we have labor shortages in the construction trades. So we're trying to do all these things very quickly. It's a challenging position to be in for sure. So we're super appreciative of the work that the MEDC is doing to lead on this for sure. As we're looking to our audience of business leaders in Michigan, how can the business community help and be supportive as we're trying to land some of these big projects and develop large sites to be ready for those projects?
Well, thank you. The business community really just supporting and advocating for economic development in general, because this is one of the tools that we have, but it's a very important tool. I mean, we regularly hear from site selectors. We do a lot of site selector engagement. We have a lot of company engagement. We have a lot of people out in the field. That sites and talent. And so it's really important to have a sustained funding system for those two things, on top of other more traditional business incentive tools that have pre-existed, because they're not, it's not an either or. It's like, how can we package all these different tools together that we know are what is driving site location to the state. And so the business community can advocate in general about why economic development incentive tools are necessary. If you have two sites in one in each state, one's pad ready and one is just optioned, or not even under control, or maybe it's under control but no work done, the more advanced state of site readiness of a property, the more likely we are to win a deal. And there, historically, I mean, because of our site selector engagement, but also company engagement, we don't even know what deals we missed that we weren't even considered for, simply because we didn't have a site. And so while site and talents are pretty yin and yang about what people are looking for, if you don't have a site, you don't need to get into a talent conversation, Right. And so it's very, very important. Traditional, incentive programs are not enough, and they have not been enough to keep Michigan competitive for some time. And so the continued support and education and advocating for those programs in, whatever venues you have, including legislative access.
The challenges we face are both, I guess, terrifying but exciting at the same time, right? It's such a great opportunity to really change the trajectory of our state and for generations to come. And so the work that we do today our kids and grandchildren will be the beneficiaries of. So we're really excited. So Terri, any other closing thoughts before we wrap up on site development and anything else that we can be doing to support your work?
Both site selectors and companies talk a lot when they talk to about Michigan, is what they see is the strong partnerships and collaboration across local and state government and state agencies and the business community and our colleges and universities. And so that, I guess my thing would be to say thank you for your interest in wanting to help in your interest in the program, but also for just the broad collaboration. I have yet to ever ask somebody in any of those sectors, business, college or university, a local EDO who hasn't been willing to not only step up and help, but really step out and help. And so people notice that. We are very much noticed as all of Michigan, Team Michigan approach. And those, non-quantitative measurements can sometimes be a deciding factor. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Terri.